Vinicius de Moraes initiated Brazilian music styles that focused on lyric through poetry, leading to the rise of bossa nova and Afro sambas. Vinicius also had a deep love for the Afro-Brazilian population, and he showed it by trying to integrate their culture into traditional Brazilian styles through his music and playwrights. This was a big stride for the Brazilian modernist movement.
Vinicius de Moraes was a Brazilian poet, lyricist, composer, and playwright. He was born in Rio de Janeiro in 1913. His father, Claudio, a poet, and his mother, Lydia, a pianist, were heavily influential in Vinicius' trajectory. In 1929, Vinicius became friends with Octavio de Ferreira, who was a novelist and essayist, as well as a right-wing Catholic leader. With the encouragement of de Ferreira, Vinicius began writing poetry, and in 1933 his two works, Path into the Distance and Form and Exegesis, were published. Form and Exegesis presents some first steps in poetics that would be customary in the future. Poems like Ia do Governado, about Vinicius' childhood and the return of the brunette woman, were standouts and showed a more everyday Vinicius. According to Tonio Caldero, Vinicius was a fellow who lived by his passions. This was extremely evident, as Vinicius was married 9 times and had many other lovers. Vinicius was not necessarily a happy man, but he lived, and his life revolved around the search for happiness. Lack of love was extremely painful for him. After Vinicius' beginnings in poetry, he entered into the diplomatic service, working for the foreign ministry, and worked as a film critic. It was through this job that Vinicius transitioned to the theater.
His most notable theatrical work was the samba Orfeu de Conceição, which showed his fascination with cultural exchange. The play referred to a Greek myth taking stage in the Brazilian communities. Not only did the play contain, for the first time in Brazil, an almost entirely Afro-Brazilian cast, it also explored various international and African sounds and styles within the music. Vinicius wrote a soundtrack of sambas for this play. The movie, with the same name, directed by Marcel Camus, would be the starting point for the famous musical style bossa nova.
Tristeza e diz a ela que sem ela não pode ser. Diz-lhe uma prece que ela regresse, porque eu não posso mais sofrer. Chega de saudade, a realidade é que sem ela não há paz, não há beleza, é só tristeza e a melancolia que não sai de mim, não sai de mim, não sai.
Pairing with the famous composer Tom Jobim, he composed the soundtrack for the movie Black Orpheus. This style combined traditional Brazilian samba with international jazz, another musical style that Vinicius adored. In 1958, Elizabeth Cardoso released her album, marking the start of bossa nova. She included on it 5 songs by the duo Jobim and Vinicius. Vinicius used his poetry and passion to create some of the most well-known bossa nova songs. Many would wonder why Vinicius would invest time into writing Afro sambas derived from a culture he was not part of. He would answer this himself, as he once referred to himself as the most Negro white man. He had a love for African styles, and together with Baden Powell, an Afro-Brazilian guitarist and composer, Vinicius would later go on to compose Os Afro Sambas.
Vai, 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 não vou, vai, 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 não vou, vai, 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 não vou, eu não sou ninguém de ir.
He gained much of his appreciation for Afro-Brazilian music from his wife, Jesse, who was from Bahia, and Baden himself, who had strong connections to Candomblé. During his relationship with Jessie, he was exposed to a great amount of Afro-Brazilian culture, also engaging in the practice of candomblé. This in turn inspired his music to draw from African musical styles side by side with traditions that included Gregorian chants.
It is evident through his work that Vinicius wanted to serve as a bridge between African and not only mainstream Brazilian music, but the classical tradition in which he had been raised. Carrying such a high profile throughout his career practically made him an unstoppable force in both his public and private lives.
Throughout the 70s, he collaborated with the musician Poetinha, with whom he toured across Brazil and Europe. The two maintained a close relationship from then until his death in 1980. Poetinha and Gilda Matoso, Vinicius' ninth wife, were the only ones who were present when he passed away. Whether it was intentional or not, Vinicius added to the modernist movement. He led to the conception of bossa nova and Afro sambas. His exposure to a multitude of experiences and lifestyles led him to add to the modernist movement by creating authentically Brazilian music, poetry, and theater productions that integrated multiple cultures. Vinicius carries a legacy to this day as one of the most influential artists of the 20th century Brazil. He was posthumously given the title of ambassador in 2010, and the mascot for the 2016 Rio Olympics was named Vinicius in his honor.
Above all to my love, I'll be attentive, first and always with care and so much, that even when facing the greatest enchantment, by love be more enchanted my thoughts. I want to live it through in each vain moment, and its honor I'll spread my song, and laugh my laughter, and cry my tears. When you are sad, or when you are content, and thus when later comes looking for me, who knows the death anxiety of the living? Who knows the loneliness end of all lovers? I'll be able to say to myself of the love I had, be not immortal since it is flame, but be infinite while it lasts.